Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by FreshBooks, the simple cloud accounting solution that's helping millions of entrepreneurs and small business owners save time. Go to freshbooks.com and use the offer code TWIST for a free 30 days. And by LeadGenius, higher quality leads and customized customer data at scale. Schedule a free demo at leadgenius.com. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services Startup Program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey everybody, on today's This Week in Startups, I have Michael Keating, who is a 3-year vet of the Launch Festival. Yes, he launched 3 years ago at the festival with an idea called ScootNetworks, which was basically you could rent a scooter here in San Francisco for $3. And guess what? The company is still going and they're thriving. And we're talking about transportation and how to execute on your idea when everybody tells you not to do it. This is an important episode for anybody who's going to build a product that is truly innovative and that has a lot of doubters and haters. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. Very excited about today's episode because it's about transportation. It's about scooters. It's about the Launch Festival. It's about taking on really difficult verticals. And that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? I mean, if you're doing something and it's too easy, then it's probably not worth doing because it's been done already, right? Like if you want to start an ad agency or like a consulting firm or any of this nonsense, like a lot of entrepreneurs come to first, it's like, well, it's been done before. It's going to go pretty well. It's not going to go amazing. It's going to be easy. To me, that's like kind of like the, I don't want to say kiddie entrepreneurship, but that's like the easy entrepreneurship, right? Like what's hard is when you try to create a new category. And when you try to create a new category, you're going to be faced with tons of technical challenges. You're going to deal with people not understanding your idea. And I think that is, when it comes down to it, one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs. And it's that when you say the idea, the mind, the human mind, is designed to figure out what is the problem, what is the mistake, right? We all see the crack in the windshield first, even though it's only a fraction of a percentage of the overall mass of the windshield. We see that crack and we focus on it, right? That's how our minds are designed. That's why when you tell your idea to somebody, say, I have this crazy idea. They come, they're like, because their mind is looking at the crack in the windshield. They're finding all the little things that could go wrong and reasons why it's not going to work. And let's face it, anything that's worth doing, things that could become big that haven't been done before, the majority case is that they're not going to work. But that's not what we do as entrepreneurs. We don't look at the majority case of something not working. We look at what is the possibility of if you do hit that 1 in 100, that 1 in 1,000, that 10% chance, that 2% chance, what happens then? What does the world look like after you hit the half-court shot, right? It is possible to hit a half-court shot. It happens a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that you should always take half-court shots, in a basketball game, but it does mean in entrepreneurship, you should be swinging, you should be taking half-court shots. And what you want to do is you want to get better and better and better at it. So when you start, yeah, sure, most people are not going to understand your idea. And in fact, not only are they not going to understand your idea, they're going to try to convince you not to do it. That's the crazy part. And your friends and your family will tell you not to do it. I had friends and family tell me blogs are not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. That was like one of the big wins of my career because I suspended disbelief. I said, hey, what if blogs could be something, right? You got to suspend disbelief for a moment. And then what happens over time is all those people who are doubters and haters and who are naturally falling back to their hating, doubting ways, when you figure it out, they're all going to lie and say, oh, I knew it worked the whole time. Happens to me every time. And I'm like, I actually remember you saying that this wouldn't work. And now you've totally flipped your position. Anyway, it's a long way of saying welcome to the program to Michael Keating, who is the founder and CEO of ScootNetworks, which launched 5 years, 4 years ago.
No, not even.
3?
It was 2 to 3 launch festivals ago.
3 ago.
Yeah, it's 2012.
2012. So 3 years ago or so, coming up on 3 years, you launched ScootNetworks at the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to the audience what you launched at the festival.
We launched a networked electric vehicle that you can pick up in one part of the city and drop off in another for $3. So something that's almost as fast as taking a taxi, almost as cheap as taking the bus, and a lot more fun and totally electric.
And when you came up with this idea, the iPhone was in like version 3 or whatever, and like apps were, just starting to get underway. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was very unique that you had figured out how to use the app to unlock the bike. You didn't need a key.
That was the kind of magic moment at the time. Yeah.
Now, you heard my little preamble here at the start of the show. What was it like that first year, did you start in 2011 or 2011, and you launched in 2012. So what was that first year like, year 0, I call it, when like you're telling people this idea that you're going to take out your phone and take the scooter, and it's electric, by the way. So there's like 3 things that people are going to say like, oh, that'll never work. People don't want to ride scooters. Oh, it's iPhone, that's not going to work, or smartphones, and it's electric. Like all these things add up to objections. What was that first year like?
It was hard. I think that's when I think a lot of people were excited about it, and they're like, wow, if you can make that work, that's going to be amazing. But you were asking them to sort of make, as you said, multiple leaps, that you're going to turn it on with your smartphone, it's going to be electric, and it's a scooter, and most people don't ride scooters in the US. So we had to kind of overcome a bunch of those things. And as we've grown, particularly with our current riders, and as we add more and more riders, more and more people are willing to believe that, yeah, of course transportation is something I get through my phone. I do it with all these other apps.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't I have an electric vehicle? Like that makes perfect sense. And then getting them on a scooter, they've seen it in other countries, they've seen it around the city. They're like, well, maybe I could do that. And so that's their friends are scooting, and so they're like, oh, I'll do that. So it took we had to sort of build it up in layers almost, and also the context around us changed. Context for electric vehicles, Tesla, context for transportation apps, Uber, that has sort of changed people's perspective on how they're supposed to get around, and that's been helpful to us.
So there's outside factors. Mm-hmm. The world can catch up to your vision. So the world, in catching up to your vision, like, hey, I called an Uber. Hey, I've been in a Tesla. Electric car is not scary, kind of thing. And you're in a pretty risk-averse town like San Francisco, where people want to try new things. What has happened in those sort of like 3 years since you started? What's the state of the business today? How many scooters are out there? How many riders? How big is the company?
Sure. It's grown a lot, and a lot of that growth has just happened in the last 6 months to a year. So we have, we've quadrupled the number of locations, quintupled the number of scooters, and we've made a ton of improvements to the vehicles themselves as we learned more about what our riders wanted and what was working and what wasn't. We doubled the range of the vehicles, so we're on lithium batteries right now. There's a bunch of kind of technical improvements, and then there's service improvements. And at 50 locations and 200 scooters, you're now usually less than 20 minutes and about $3 away from most of the parts of San Francisco, at least the northeastern part of the city where you'd want to be. So
right.
It went from 4 locations when we launched a little bit after we pitched at the launch conference, which was cool and neat, but only really useful to a pretty small number of folks who lived or worked near those 4 locations. And now at 50 locations, we're just much, much, much more useful to more people.
So there are 50 locations around the city here that you can find a scooter.
Correct.
Now, how do you get those locations? Are those like you rent somebody's garage, or like I think Zipcar does, or do you just park them on the street? How do you actually
place
them?
It's a mix. Yeah, it's a mix. So sometimes it's garages, and sometimes it's private garages, sometimes it's big public garages, and that's where we do most of our charging. And then about a third of our locations are just intersections in the city where the street parking regulations aren't terribly strict, and we just have instructions in the app and say, if you want to pick up or drop off here, this is the side of the street you're supposed to park on, this is where you should put your scooter, and you can just find them in there, and we just basically designate those parts of the city where we want to have scooters out there on the street visible for folks.
And the scooters have GPS on them or something, so you know where they are.
Yep.
And these are 49cc scooters, like the ones you don't need a driver's license for?
Right, except, the electric equivalent of like a 50cc scooter.
A 50cc, I guess. Yeah, I have enough knowledge to get myself in trouble here.
Yeah.
So those scooters, what's the range on those electric scooters now? Because when they started, it was like an hour or something, or two. I don't know.
Yeah, it was not, when we started, we were using lead battery scooters, which have a whole bunch of we're glad we're not on them anymore. The new lithium batteries are 25 to 30 miles of range, which is great since the typical scoot ride's about 4 miles. That's a lot of rides you can get in between each charge. And the battery is removable. So if you happen to, say, drop it off at one of our on-street locations where there's no power and you've pretty much depleted the battery, we can get a mechanic out there to do a little work on the scooter, pop and swap its battery, and that scooter is good to go again. So those are some of the big differences that have happened.
And so how many scooters are deployed in those 50 locations? There must be hundreds now?
Yeah, we're over 200 scoots just as of actually about this week.
And how did you raise money for the idea? Because I know I know Joanne Wilson, the Gotham gal, was an investor.
She's an early investor, yeah.
Early investor, but that was a particularly challenging thing to, especially at that time, right when Uber was getting started, to have a transportation company was like, and a hardware company, and real world, and insurance. How is the funding going, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
So it was really difficult to capitalize the company, and one of the it was before Uber became this kind of the massive success that it was, and so transportation, like you said, it wasn't the huge thing it is today. And we also initially, because we were an electric vehicle company, we thought of ourselves as sort of the capital efficient, cool, consumer facing clean tech company, which in 2012, 2013 was a really bad thing to be from a fundraising perspective. So we needed to rethink, what are we really offering here? And it's not about the greenness of it, though the service is incredibly eco-friendly. It's about saving people time, saving people money, getting places quickly. And once we attracted a bunch of our early capital from folks that were kind of mission driven and were interested in like, hey, this is great. This
so
is
in a way
green.
that scarlet letters you, doesn't it? Like, oh, this is a green company, not a make green company.
Exactly. So there was a little bit of that. And then there were folks like Joanne, who is, I think cares about the environment, but didn't invest in us because we were green, because we were like a cool new urban service, which is her bag.
And she drove a Vespa for a long time. Her and Fred were driving Vespas around New York.
Exactly.
And I was a Vespa driver around New York. All right, when we get back, I want to understand how you do the economics of this kind of a business, because that's the other scary part on This Week in Startups. I'm super excited about FreshBooks sponsoring This Week in Startups. And the reason I am is because it's a fantastic product that helps you create professional-looking invoices. We have a ton of people who are watching this program who are developers or designers or consultants or UX consultants, salespeople, et cetera. And they need to send invoices. And instead of popping up a Google Doc or a Word doc and like replacing all the data in it and then making mistakes, you want to have a really slick, clean looking invoice that is easy to get paid. And you also want to do things, aside from making professional looking invoices, like track your time, capture expenses, and get real-time business reports, i.e. how are you doing on collections from your software. And FreshBooks does all that elegantly and simple. So if you were a person who was, let's say, a designer and a UX professional, and you've got 4 different clients, and you're jumping around town in Ubers and taking them to lunch and buying materials and buying software and stock photos and images and videos on their behalf to build their websites and their apps, you got to keep track of all that stuff. Well, FreshBooks lets you time track and expense track and include those in invoices and send them automatically and get paid. And it's a fantastic, fantastic product that's easy to use, and it works on your iPhone, Android, desktop, obviously everywhere. It's one of these great examples of software as a service where a founder, Michael in this case, it was just so focused on making one thing work beautifully and brilliantly that he made a huge, tremendous business out of it. FreshBooks is a great startup in its own right. And it happened because Michael, who was the founder, was doing all this billing and invoicing in Word and Excel. And he started writing over old invoices and making mistakes. And it just upset him to the point at which he was like, I'm going to just create FreshBooks. And you hear their ads on the radio all the time. And the reason you do is because they're doing tremendous. People love this product. They use it for years and years because it's so simple and easy. It's designed for small and medium-sized businesses, SMBs, as we say in the biz. And FreshBooks is free for Twist viewers. Yes, that's right. You can try it free for 30 days with no obligation. Go to getfreshbooks.com, getfreshbooks.com, and enter the promo TWIST in the field when it says, how did you hear about us? When it says, how did you hear about us, put in TWIST, and you'll get your 30-day free trial from Get FreshBooks. And everybody thank at FreshBooks on Twitter. Thank you at FreshBooks. from myself and the team here at This Week in Startups. We really appreciate your support, and thank you for making a beautiful product for startup companies and freelancers. It's really a great product. Go check it out. Let's get back to this amazing program. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. You can follow me on Twitter at Jason. My guest today, Michael Keating, is MB Keating and on the Twitter. And ScootNetworks you can find at scootnetworks.com or ScootNetworks on Twitter or anywhere here in our fine city of San Francisco. And 50 locations, hundreds of scooters. So take me through the economics of running fleets of scooters that cost, I assume, $3,000 each or something, and hundreds of dollars a year to maintain, and all these parking places. I mean, this seems daunting in a way, and
it's also really fun.
Yeah, and like, how do you even get started, or do you even think about I guess another way to say the question is, did you even consider the economics? Or the economic, how much did you consider the economic viability of doing this when you started? Or you just say, F it, let's get started and get the ball rolling and we'll figure it out as we go? Because there are different styles of entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, I thought about the money from the beginning. I wanted to build something big, and I knew that if it was going to get to be big, it had to make money. And we looked at what other types of vehicle sharing services were doing. We just looked at the whole transportation opportunity in the city and who was doing what, whether it was owning your own car and driving it all over the place, or taking the bus, or bike share, or Uber, or whatever. And we saw that it was...
Zipcar, I guess, is a close companion.
Yeah, Zipcar is related, bike share is related. And we knew that in a small-ish city like San Francisco, a couple $2 billion were being spent every year by the folks that live and work here, just moving themselves around the city, which is just a massive amount of money. And so we thought, well, what are they spending it on, and how can we compete? And what we realized is if we could get down into that $3 a ride or so, which is about 2/3 of the trips in San Francisco are made for less than $3 a trip. That's a bus ride, it's a bike ride, it's you're walking someplace. And that, if we could touch that price point with something that was a little faster and a little easier, then we would have a really valuable product. And that was just the core value proposition right there.
$3 is the magic number, and somehow you got there.
We got there.
And so how much does it cost for me as a consumer to take it out for an hour, or how do you charge? Yeah.
We charge on the half hour.
Right.
So then part of that is because any Scoot location it's never more than half an hour from another Scoot location, at least at the size we are now. Maybe we'll put some like really far south at some point. It'll be a little further. But you can get from any Scoot location in well under half an hour. So our basic price is $3 for the first half hour. And then it's $1.50 per half hour after that if you feel like holding on to it, like having lunch, running your errands. And some of our riders will take it for the day and they'll ride all around. Some of them will take it for a couple of hours, do a meeting, come back, and that pricing is just it's just really competitive. It's not quite as cheap as the bus, but it's much faster, and it's a lot cheaper than taking a taxi. So that's where we kind of slot in.
Yeah, that seems to me to be an amazing value, because if you even went to work for let's say you were going to work for 5 hours or something, and you had a meeting before or something like that, if you had it out for even 10 hours, it would be like $30 or so. Right, $3 an hour, maybe $4.50 for the first hour, so it'd be whatever it is, $31.50 or something, or $33 for 10 hours or something. Like if you took Ubers, you would take 3-4 Ubers, so it actually turns out to be pretty efficient. Mm-hmm. Can you rent it for the day, or is there like a cap? Like if I take it for the whole day, or if I take it for the week?
We're talking about that right now. We're thinking about putting in like a cap on a day rate. So for like $40, you could have it for the whole day and just not have to worry about it. But we actually haven't rolled that out yet.
Yeah, because when I go to like Spain or France or those kind of places, like that's the first thing I do is I call ahead actually. Give me two good scooters, and that's what they usually go for. It's about $30-$40 a day, and I'm like, just have them there, and we're going to use them for the next, have one outside the hotel for the next 5 days, because to me, that's the best way to explore the city. Let's talk about safety and how you get people through that.
So that's obviously incredibly important. Most Americans don't know how to ride scooters. Right. So so far, almost everyone who's joined Scoot has had to take a lesson. If you have a motorcycle license, we'll let you watch some videos and go around that. Yeah. And that's working. So we're beginning to expand who we allow to kind of teach themselves to scoot. But as a small startup, we can't have serious safety stuff. And it's just part of the culture of the company. So I guess we don't really publish safety stuff, but we can say that we've had tens of thousands of rides and a single-digit number of what we would consider like a serious incident, the worst of which was a broken ankle, which just to put a fine point on it. So, and also we've never hurt anybody else, meaning one of our riders has never been the cause of an injury to another person, which is meaningful because it is transportation and you are on the street with other folks and you've got to be a good citizen of where you're operating. So that's,
and it's not like we're operating in a city that is not doesn't have pedestrian issues. I mean, this city has a lot of pedestrians getting hit by buses and madness and stop signs and all kinds of insanity. I mean, it's a dense, crazy city in a way. So if I want to become a ScootNetworks member, I'm going to need to take a course, or I'm going to need to come to your office and ride around in a circle, and you're going to realize like I'm not completely uncoordinated.
Well, since you're a Vespa rider, you're a scooter rider, we would let you watch some videos and take a little sort of a quiz, and then we would just let you go because we know that you.
So I just do that on the phone, or I do it online.
Yeah, you do it on your phone, do it on your laptop, and then you could just go ride. Yeah. Most people don't have the scooter, at least in the U.S., have the scooter experience you have. So you would pick a time to stop by one of a bunch of different locations in the city where you'd meet one of our instructors and probably a couple of other people who are joining the service. You'd spend a little time kind of going up and down the block, learning the basics, and maybe go on a quick ride with the instructor after, and take you, if you were totally new to scootering, take you about an hour. Yeah. And then you're good, and you got the app, and you can rent the scooters whenever you want.
Yeah, and I really love this. I mean, can we put this up on my screen? I just want to show people this tutorial that you have by a company called Vidcaster, I think, is doing this with you. I think it's okay to give them a little shout out.
Yeah, sure.
Some startup love for Vidcaster. But I thought that this was brilliant because here, if you look on the right, if you're watching the video, you can see it's like video 1, Scoot app tutorial, reserve and mount your phone, turn on and unlock, helmet and charger, BLTB, pre-ride safety checks, all this stuff. So you literally make people go through this like little quiz, almost like compliance. So you know they've seen the video. I guess they could really try to game it, but it'll be work. But I love the fact that everything is so easy to just reserve it. You find the scooter here. I'm walking people through it here like a little sports casting. The scooters are beautiful. Did you oh, look at that. And here, look, it gives you a question. Where are the scooter's numbers located on the scooter? On the front and side panel, on the helmet box. Let me say that. I didn't watch. I'm guessing. Good. Okay. So you basically, in order to get through the video, you have to answer questions so you know I'm paying attention. And then this is the cradle. This is what I love. Look at that. It's like a little cradle, and you put your phone in, and then you plug it into a lightning adapter or any of these other adapters.
Yeah, it's if you feel like you need to charge it. That's
cute. Yeah. So you can charge your phone. Groovy. And then what? What does the phone do? It lets you start it?
Yeah, so it turns the scooter on, and it acts as your speedometer, your GPS, your battery meter while you're riding. It gives you scooter-specific directions, so you're not going to get Google mapped onto the freeway or something like that. And it's just your way of basically making use of the service. It's just a really nice communication channel to the customer.
That's awesome. And then the scooters that you have, these are like OEM, is that the term or something? Like you white labeled some other people's scooters? Like
exactly.
These are the ones from China or something mass produced?
Totally. Mass produced in China for the domestic market. We bring them over kind of gutted, and then we add a great battery to it. We add a really nice set of electronics to it so that it rides really well, and we add our own networking to it. So it's we go through this sort of upgrade process with the scooters when they get here.
Yeah, and what does a scooter like that run? If I was to buy one, there's the equivalent, $3,000 or $4,000?
That's probably about right. You actually can't really just go to a store and buy a scooter just like this, but you could get something of equivalent performance in that, around that price point.
Yeah, I mean the low end Vespas are like 2 to 3, and then the high end ones are 4 and 5 or something.
Yeah, a little more than that actually.
Yeah.
But it's in the right ballpark.
Why does Vespa not have an electric scooter? I wonder.
Piaggio made something called a Liberty. This is a great brand. Email for postal services in Italy for a little while, and they discontinued it, I think. Or maybe they may still make it, but they haven't made very many. I'm not sure why they haven't. The thing with light electrics, they kind of unlike say a Tesla, is that they haven't quite gotten to a place where we're competitive with their gas equivalents, in the sense of riding a Scoot is awesome, but at 25 or 30 miles of range, that's not the same range you would get out of a tank of gas in your Vespa. So a lot of the
miles,
you might get 100 miles out of a 50cc scooter. So the other aspects of the performance are great, but if you're going to own it, you probably want that range and stuff like that. And so they find that for ownership, it doesn't totally work. But on but if you're operating in a fleet context, like in a rental vehicle or a delivery fleet, they're awesome because you basically prepaid for all your gas with this battery. And now you have these very, very low operating costs. And so it works as a fleet vehicle. All
right. When we get back, I want to find out about next cities and next steps for your one city, right? We're in one city.
Still
in one city, 50 location, 200 scooter startup, and everybody stick with us. Okay, LeadGenius is a brilliant product. It's a brilliant company. It's a brilliant service. And I know this because I am lucky enough to have invested in this company, and I am a user of this company. When you're doing sales, you have to break sales up into its component parts, right? So you have people who are outside sales executives who go out and they meet with people. You have inside sales. But getting leads is so critical. And having a sustained flow of leads, just like in Glengarry, Glen Ross, these are the leads. The leads are not weak. You are weak. Put that coffee down and use LeadGenius. What LeadGenius does is they insert themselves into your sales process and they take over finding leads for you. So they will maintain a pipeline of high quality sales leads. And it's very difficult to do this because people's contact data changes, things are switching around, and a lot of industries have 5-10% turnover. So you think you're close to getting a deal done, you think you know the right person, and then they're gone, right? People are transient. They don't stay at companies for 10 years anymore. And the human touch is needed, and they have humans who are great at this. So what they do is they update your own CRM. They use your email address. They hire people and train them just on how to find leads. So they will enrich the data in your database, no matter what you're using. If you're using Tout, another investment of mine, if you're using Salesforce, whatever you're using as your CRM or contact management, they will import directly into those marketing automation software, whatever, CRM. And the team spend tons of times researching all of these new leads and keeping it up to date. And I think ultimately you wind up spending just a couple of bucks a lead or even less. So when you have these high-priced sales executives out there trying to find leads, you're wasting and burning money. You're wasting time and burning money. Put the coffee down and get LeadGenius. Everybody thank at LeadGenius. Stripe uses them. Signified uses them. I use them. I love the company. I invested in the company, and they will give you a 10-minute live demo, and they're going to teach you a ton of stuff. Like when I say these people are sales geniuses, they are sales geniuses, and they know that your pain point is leads, and that once you get the good leads, the sales start just flowing in. They want to give you their money. Once you get the good leads, it's so easy. Life is so easy. Your sales executives will not be complaining. You'll just outsource this piece of the sales process and you will succeed. LeadGenius.com/twist. LeadGenius.com/twist. You are going to love this product. I guarantee it. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. You can find me at Jason on the Twitter, and you can find the show, TWI Startups. TWI Startups. And it's at TWI Startups, not only on Twitter, but also on the Instagram. And now we're also doing Facebook videos. So if you go to facebook.com, Facebook.com/thisweekinstartups or TWI Startups? I don't even know. Anyway, type This Week in Startups into Facebook. You'll find us there, and we're putting little videos, like native videos on Facebook. They're kind of an interesting little... Facebook's like hosting videos now. They're kind of like just dipping their toe into competing with YouTube, but they have a 20-minute limit. So we're like, all right, let's put some episodes up with 20 minutes and then tell you to go to the Wistia video or something. I don't know. We're testing it. So... you've raised a couple $1 million for the company from angels largely.
Largely, yeah.
Yeah. And now, what's going on with the VCs? Because VCs, in my estimation, the venture capitalists, have absolutely no vision in the majority of cases. And they want everything proven for them and given to them on a silver platter. Like, here it is. The hockey stick has been proven, and then they jump on the bus. And they pay a nice price for jumping on when the hockey stick has come up. But what has your experience been with the venture capital community, with your idea, which, let's face it, nobody's ever done before? Your idea, did you find anybody who ever tried this madness?
There was one group in Barcelona that tried it, and they didn't make it.
Of course.
Yeah, it's tough. So we definitely weren't on the hockey stick when we first started talking to institutional investors, and we did not get that far with them. Now we think we've kind of plated it up, and we definitely have the hockey stick. It's growing very, very fast in San Francisco now. So we are starting some of those conversations, and it's interesting when you obviously an Uber investor, and apparently they're worth $40 billion right now, which is wonderful. And
they are.
At least that's what I think I got that out of one of your tweets.
They are?
Or in the launch ticker.
Dude, I'm gonna go to Hawaii.
Good.
And you're all coming with me.
So we're wondering when that kind of we are not Uber, but we're in an adjacent market, local transportation, personal transportation, and I wonder if any of that's going to rub off
a spillover
with
effect.
Institutional investors.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're bringing in a lot of cash. Our existing investors are pretty excited about how close we are to basically
break even.
Love it. And then you can think about, well, where should we go next? Once we have a city the size of San Francisco that's working, we can start replicating, which is a little different from how a software company scales. So we may find that there are institutional investors that want to be on board for that. And if they're not, there are a lot of other paths to funding the business.
So what do you have to hit in terms of usage for an individual scooter, just ballpark, not trade secrets or whatever? How utilized is a scooter, these $3,000 or $4,000 scooters that I'm assuming have a couple of $100 in maintenance, maybe $1,000 in maintenance? If that's like $5,000, back of the envelope, 12 months a year, $400 a year in cost for because you had to do it over 2 years maybe. I don't know. Maybe it costs $200 or $300 a month for the life of the scooter. I'm not sure.
You're close, actually.
I'm good at math.
Yeah, you're close. So if the scooter's going to last longer than that, so you can spread some of that capital cost out.
36 months.
We spend a little more on maintenance than that because it's got to keep the scooters running. And there's some parking costs and networking costs and other things that go in there. But what you want is the scooter to be used 3 or 4 times a day, and then you want to collect some monthly membership fees on top of that. And then you get a scooter that is over the course of a year, when you take out that amortization of your CapEx and you take out those operating costs, you're making about a 50% gross margin on the vehicle, which is a great spot. And then you just need enough of those scooters at enough locations so that they're ridden often enough that your contribution margin is covering your overhead in your city and then eventually your corporate overhead as well.
So you're talking about basically it's got to monetize at like $1,000 a month or something.
Yeah, if we were making $1,000 per scooter per month, we would be knocking it clean out of the park.
Perfect.
And if we were making even, I think, 80% of that, we would be very, very happy. And we can sort of see the trajectory from where we are now to that.
And so when you did talk to VCs, you must have talked to VCs, what did they say to you? Did they say, like, if you hit these numbers, come back? Or how do they turn you down, because it's out there? Because we're talking about, I think it's one of the great things about having you on the show, is I've always felt like you guys were very bold, like in terms of taking this on. And I do respect that, actually.
Yeah, who do we think we are offering $3 electric personal transportation in San Francisco?
Exactly. It's just nuts, right? Like, but it's also just a huge, I don't want to use like the word, anybody knows the word I'm going to take, but it took brass, fists for you to fight this fight,
Thank
right?
you, Jason. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I take chutzpah. Thank you. I got to be careful with like things I say because they're out there like waiting for you to slip up and say something on a show that is inappropriate.
I brought some cash. Where is that? You used to have a jar.
I used to have the swear jar.
Curse.
Yeah, I just don't curse anymore on the show. I'm just panicked about it. Anyway, so the chutzpah that you guys have. So what do they say when this thing is like too far out of their realm? Do they say like, keep us informed? How do they say no?
I think that what we heard was we would hear things like, we don't know if enough Americans will ride scooters. That was something we heard more than once. And to me, I was thinking, well, Howard Schultz brought espresso to the U.S., 20, 30 years ago, and like Americans drank terrible, terrible coffee.
Instant coffee,
awful. And so I was thinking,
you would come over to my house for dinner, and I'd say, "Would you want Sanka?" Who the hell wants Sanka? Nobody wants instant coffee. That was state of the art when Charles Schultz did espresso.
Right, and now we have decent coffee, but we still circle for parking, which is what I think of as like, why do you get in your car and go around and around and around the block?
If we all
because
had
you feel
scooters.
like you've got to be in a car, and if you were in other parts of the world, you'd be on a scooter and you just park. So sometimes we make that metaphor, but it didn't really resonate, and I think that was one of the things that we got stuck on, is that America is one of the only major countries in the world where there's not really like a significant motorcycle and scooter culture. So getting over that, I think, was one of the things that the institutional investors struggled with. Then, and this was all before City Bike, so there's bike sharing in hundreds of cities at this point, but once it went to New York, then it kind of became real for people.
The bike sharing
as like an analogous business for Scoot.
Right, because they said that would never work. Holland,
they'd all get killed by taxi
Denmark,
drivers. It'd be
never
terrible.
work in New York.
Never work in New York.
New York's cynical.
Huge success.
Sold out.
Unqualified success.
Yeah.
So we're
It's sold out.
the City Bike.
The city bikes are sold out. Every
you
time I
can't
go
get
there,
them.
they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're terrible.
The bicycles themselves.
The bicycles are
they're
terrible.
no fun to ride.
They're heavy, they're terrible, and they're sold out.
People want them. So we thought, now that we can point to that, that's a pretty close proximate behavior to jumping on a scoot and doing something pretty similar. I mean, there's obvious differences, but so as those, it's like you said, the context changes around you. So other things are emerging. City Bike comes up, Uber comes up, other things change, Tesla, and so those are starting to be very present in the minds of investors. And I think we're getting a different reception than we used to. Also, the fact that business is just growing really fast right now, which is just nice when you've got the metrics.
Now, what about, we had Faraday bikes on, e-bikes.
Those are great, and those are nice guys too.
Yeah, really nice guys, really visionary, beautiful product. E-bikes are becoming the rage in Germany and China. You must be aware of this. You're smiling.
Yeah.
So obviously I've dipped down the roadmap. When are you guys going to incorporate e-bikes?
We are the first sample e-bike that we're evaluating for the fleet arrives next week.
Oh my God, I'm such a genius.
You're
I
right.
really am. I have to just say it to everybody in the audience.
And I don't know when it's going to be available to our customers. But
No,
I
I'm
think
not a genius, but it is undeniable that these things are actually viable. I mean, I'm not a genius. I just literally read, and it's becoming, I read in The Economist about these 2 years ago, it's like 5% of the population in Germany or something, and then in China it's like some other like higher number.
Yeah, and it's totally different products. The Chinese product is like a $500 like wears out in a year and a half, but literally 30 million of them being made and sold every year.
Wow.
And then
so they're garbage.
They're not high quality products,
Yeah.
but there also are just a ton of e-bike repair shops in China, so it's easier for them. And then in Germany, they're like $5,000 sort of commuter, professional kind of like
BMW, Mercedes, craftsmanship.
They're super high end, and it's interesting to see the contrast. And the bike we're getting is kind of in between, and we'll see if we like it enough to offer it to our customers. But we see Scoot as a platform for basically everything electric between bike but not as big as a car. So we're also looking at little four-wheelers and three-wheelers and electric motorcycles and thinking like if you were a Scoot member, you should have access to not just the Scoots, but these other things that are also useful for different kinds of trips within the city.
Yeah, see, I think that's one of the great things about you guys sticking with the vision. Because let's say the VCs are right. Americans are just, the scooters feel like, whatever, uncomfortable. I think that's false. I think they'll get to it when they're available, right? But let's say they're just super into like this e-bike thing, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can get an e-bike and I can get around for $3. Or if I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to the baseball game and they're just all at Giant Stadium and or whatever, AT&T Park here, and they're all at Google. So what about that campus stuff? Like, have you had the campuses say, like, can we get ScootNetworks on campus?
We've gotten a lot of inquiries, and we had to make, this is kind of back to like startup philosophy. We had only so much capital and only so much time and only so many Scoots. And so the question is, what do you want to prove to your investors before you go raise your next round? That you're a great solution for corporate campuses on the peninsula or college campuses? There's good business to be done, not a bad thing. But if you can prove that you work in a downtown major metropolitan area as a kind of a general purpose transportation solution, that's a bigger story. So we decided to go after the bigger story. And then if that is successful, we'll probably start looking at college campuses, looking at corporate campuses, looking at going down the Caltrain line or something like that, and putting them at Caltrain stations would be cool. So there's a lot of different things you could do them, but we wanted to prove what we thought was the most compelling use case first.
That would be amazing if you got off at Caltrans at university.
Great.
And there were 100 of them there.
It'd be perfect.
And you could just zip over to Palantir or SurveyMonkey or whoever's over there and take out that last, whatever it is, 20-minute walk or 30-minute walk. Right? There's a lot of people doing that. Or they have campus buses pick them up and everything.
We knew that Caltrain station in San Francisco, as you know, is not very accessible by any means. And so people were scooting there a lot. And it was one of our most popular locations. And then we made a little map where we plotted all the app opens of Scoot on a map. And so you started the map and it's like, oh, obviously people are opening the Scoot app all over San Francisco so they can go scoot around San Francisco because that's where the Scoots are. Then we started zooming out and we saw this tail going south down the Caltrain line, like a solid line of app opens all the way to San Jose. And we were thinking, what is, and there's, obviously it's people getting on Caltrain and reserving their Scoot for when they get to San Francisco, either for their last mile of their commute to work or their last mile of their commute home. And that was just amazing to see.
So as they're coming up on the train, they're like, I need to make sure I don't miss.
Yeah, that somebody doesn't get the last Scoot before I get to Caltrain. Otherwise, I'm taking a Muni home or something like that.
Let me ask you a question. If it was for commuting and I took it home at night, and they're not used overnight, could there be a lower charge overnight? So okay, I'm going to take it home and to dinner at 7 o'clock. I got back at 7 from Facebook, whatever, and I'm going to ride to the Mission. Boom, I go home. It charges me $6.
Yep.
And wake up, it charges me $6. It's $12, but I don't pay the whole overnight fee. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that actually is how we started with just that, and it was actually free, I think, but late at night, early on, and then we made it about 50 cents an hour, which is where we are now. I don't know when you're actually going to air this show.
Yeah.
But I can say that we are going to tweak that price pretty soon because we find that we have enough locations now in the city that you generally are able to drop it off at a location relatively near your house so you don't have to hold on to it all night. And then you can go to bed and you get up in the morning, you go get it again and ride it in. And probably a couple people will use it between, or at least maybe one person will use it between when you go to bed and when you get up.
Have you thought about letting it rest wherever somebody leaves it for a fee, and then you go pick it up? So let's say I drive it to AT&T Park, but I'm going to my friend's place after. I don't want to deal with this. Is there a solution for that?
Yeah, I think we could take what we're doing now with the on-street parking, and if we made it a little more general, but we would really have to trust our riders to read all the parking signs and not park in some place that was going to get towed. And we're sort of zeroing in on being able to do that, but we're still learning from our own riders, just in these kind of pretty circumscribed areas where we say you can pick up and drop off in the street, how willing folks are to follow the rules and how willing folks are to kind of bend them. And so when we get a better feel for that, I think we'll know how long a leash we could give our riders in terms of where they can drop off.
So I'm curious how friendly the city is to scooters, because when I was in New York, I had a scooter that I got from Cosmo.com when they went out of business.
Oh, wow.
And I would drive the Cosmo scooter around. And there's a lot of guys from Africa, literally from Africa, who were messengers. And I would park and I would see the guys. And the guy was at my building. And I asked the guy one time, why do you put your license plate on Velcro? They had them on Velcro, or they had these hooks, just make hooks out of hangers.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do you have it? I was like, so I'm not going to take it. I was like, oh. So you take your license plate with you. So then I was like, this is great. So I did that. I took the license plate, I put double-sided Velcro on it, and you would just take it, park anywhere, boom, I literally put my license plate in my suit jacket because they're tiny, go to my meeting, come down, boom, a cop busted me doing it one time. He's like, you're not supposed to do that. I was like, yeah, but people keep stealing my plates. And he was like, whatever, you're not supposed to do it. He's like, I'm not going to give you a ticket. It's pretty funny. But you could park in New York anywhere. Nobody cared. I would park literally in Rock Center in front of the Fox building when I go do Fox News or something. I would leave it parked outside. The security guys would be there. On the sidewalk, nobody cared.
Wow, we're going to New York as soon as possible.
What about here?
So you can't park a scooter. You can park a scooter on the sidewalk in San Francisco under very specific circumstances. We park at the curb, partly because we would get a lot of tickets if we let our riders park on the sidewalk. It's not that safe to have folks riding scoots on the sidewalk just to park them. And we want to be good. We want to be in good with the city. Our approach has been a little different from what some of the other transportation startups have taken, in the sense of we have a pretty good relationship with the city regulators. And even the neighborhoods where we're now bringing scoots in, some folks are saying, oh, this scoot, it's where I used to park my car, and now I wish it wasn't there. But there's a lot of their neighbors are riding the scoots, and so we're doing a pretty good job of not throwing too many sharp elbows. Yeah, and
parking. So, people are very NIMBY. About parking.
NIMBY parking is the essential NIMBY issue.
Yes,
it's the fundamental.
Not in my backyard, by the way, for those who don't know. So why doesn't the city, since we have transportation issues here, why doesn't Ed Lee, or whoever in the city, let you or let us, scooter people, I forget about ScootNetworks, but just all scooters, why don't they just on every street put 2 boxes that they draw and say these 2 spots are for scooters.
Be perfect.
Why don't they have that? It would be easy to do.
Yep.
It would make life so much better for so many people.
Totally. Yeah.
Because that's what in Europe, when you're in Italy, you know this, in Spain, if you have a scooter, you can do whatever you want with it.
Whatever you want.
You could literally, you just park it anywhere. Don't worry about it. It's a scooter. It's like a bicycle. Park it anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But here, everything is so insane.
People are crazy about parking. And what we've asked some folks in the city to think about is exempting either all electric 2-wheels or all scooters or motorcycles in general from the resident parking permit. That would be the biggest game changer for us. Part of the reason we don't have scoots in Pack Heights is that it's all locked down with resident permit parking.
I know, it's crazy.
But scoots hardly take up any space.
No.
So if Pack Heights didn't have that resident permit sticker, we could park scoots in all sorts of streets in Pack Heights and people could pick up scoots, drop off scoots.
But why not on the sidewalk? The streets are so big in Pack Heights. Are there people that they think it's like visually not appealing?
Who knows? But we are definitely talking to the city about making parking for scoots more widespread in various different ways.
You see, this is why they need to make me mayor now. I think like
Is
on
that
a
why you
part-time
moved to San
basis.
Francisco?
I moved here because basically
Carpetbagging?
this place is so poorly run. I have to say, how long have you been here?
I've been here for 3 years.
It's embarrassing sometimes how this place is run. Like so many in some ways, there's like really great things that they're very permissive about some things. Like on Market Street, this guy's got like a barbecue like going around the block from us here at WeWork. It's literally got a barbecue outside. I'm like, how is that legal? The guy's like, yeah, the city's like doesn't care down here. I'm like, great. But then for something like scooters, they can't get it together for like parking on the street makes sense or
scooter people probably need to get better organized and advocate more for their interests. And San Francisco is a crazy town with all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm kind of actually impressed with the way the city's running things under the circumstances.
Yeah, given the insanity of this place, it makes sense. So what do you think the reaction to this product will be in New York? Because I'm assuming New York has to be the next city, and Brooklyn has to be the place to do it. So did I nail it again?
You're close. I think that we will go. There are a couple of other cities we'd like to go to first, and the only reason that we wouldn't go straight to Brooklyn is the weather. So we want to make sure that we can handle a Brooklyn winter, and they kept the city bikes on the road all winter. And what apparently was a terrible winter for the New Yorkers. But we would like to go to 1 or 2 other cities first and get a sense of what happens when the weather gets cold and potentially snowy, and then think about what's that going to do to the overall profitability
like DC or something, or somewhere like a little bit further south.
You're getting there. Okay. Yeah, you're getting there.
See, I think it's a huge mistake. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The people in DC are boring. Okay? All people in DC are boring.
But if they had scoots, they'd be so much more exciting.
That's the problem. The people in DC, listen to me, Michael, the people in DC are so boring that they're going to feel self-conscious putting the helmet on.
Never put your candidate in a helmet, that's what I've heard.
They're just going to basically not be adventurous, whereas people in Brooklyn are going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll get on that scooter. I'm going to take it across the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, they're going to do crazy stuff on your scooters. They're going to embrace it big time. And that's a place where everything is so jammed up that everybody's looking for an angle. So this is the thing about New Yorkers. They're all looking for an edge. They're all looking for a way to just go a little bit faster than the next person to get ahead, right? Whatever that is. I'm not saying like cut corners, but everybody's got a system, right? So if you talk to somebody about how do I get from Central Park, to Bay Ridge, you're going to have a big religious debate about if you're taking the B and where you're going to transfer on the 14th Street, or you're going to go all the way to DeKalb.
Your accent's coming out a little bit when you talk about Brooklyn,
exactly.
Jason. Yeah.
And so what happens is with the scooters, when I had my scooter, that was like the topic of discussion. And I can't tell you how many people after I told them my system for the scooter got scooters.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, this is great.
It's a hack.
It's the best city hack ever. And everybody was so afraid of them. And when I told them the license plate hack, forget about it. Like, that was incredible. Then when I told them, anyway, a friend who's not me, who rode scooters in New York, I'm saying this is literally a friend who's not me, he had a couple of systems of getting through traffic. One of the systems was, if you get jammed up on a street and you can't get through, you get on the sidewalk and you walk your scooter.
That's smart. I like that.
As if you were going to park it. And then you get to the corner and you just give a quick look. Okay, no cops. Even if there's a cop, they don't know. You just walk right back into the street, you get on your scooter. So literally, if all hell breaks loose and the street shuts down and you can't weave your way through, you have that option.
It's great. It's brilliant.
Like literally, the friend who's not me would go down the street the wrong way with the scooter if it made the ride shorter. If they were walking it on the sidewalk. And then if you walk it on the sidewalk, you can walk it still on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're using the energy of the scooter. You're not like, it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the end, boom, you hop right back on.
What do you think about LA as a scoot market?
Well,
They've got a new head of transportation who just came down from San Francisco.
that's the one good thing is that you will have in LA people who will, they're very open. LA is very open to a lot of things, but it's very much a car culture.
Very much car culture.
You'd have to see, because it'd be like, which side of the 405 are you going to do it on? So the west side, Santa Monica, Venice, Marina del Rey, I could see it working because there are people who are moving to Venice and getting rid of cars and taking Uber. So that's a kind of a trend there. So there are people who live in Venice.
My sister is doing that right now.
Right.
Actually.
So that could work. And they use Zip cars or they take Ubers everywhere. Then you have the other side, which is like Culver City and Westwood with UCLA and all those places. That could work. And then downtown, perhaps.
Perhaps.
But here's the thing. A 35-mile-per-hour scooter in LA, splitting traffic and whatever, is going to go faster than traffic in a car because that it's so crowded that if people, once they realize, oh, wait a second, when everybody's backed up on Santa Monica Boulevard or Wilshire getting under the 405 and I'm zipping through.
And you're allowed to lane split in California.
And you're allowed to lane split in California. Oh, my God. When people realize that, boom.
City hack.
It's just another city hack, right? I mean, that's the great thing about it. That's where I think electric bicycles are going to really – what's the speed on an electric bicycle that you can go? Is it 12 miles per hour?
You're capped – actually, in California, you're capped at 20. So you can go pretty –
That's brisk.
fast on a bike. Yeah.
And you don't have to wear a motorcycle helmet. You have to wear a bicycle helmet.
I think you do have to wear a bicycle helmet on an electric bike in California.
And on a regular bike in California, you don't have to wear a helmet. That's up to you. But but nobody would know you're on electric anyway. So if you want to take your life in your hands and not mess up your hair, you could on an electric.
Conceivably, I guess.
Conceivably.
Yeah.
See, that's where I think the e-bikes thing is going to be extraordinary for you.
We're interested in seeing what the uptake would be like.
And you got to build your own, or you got to outsource. You got to get your OEM to get it together.
We'd like to network them. That's part of our big value proposition is you can track it, you can pick it up and drop it off in different places, and we're keeping an eye on it, we're maintaining it, and I mean part of what we do now with the scoots, we even have accelerometers in them, so we know when they get tipped over. So you're soon if you parked one outside the restaurant and you were just having dinner, you would get a text message from us if some jerk backed into your scooter and knocked it over. So it would be even little things like that help add value, and we would love to be able to do that with
the electric bike will be half the cost of the scooter to you?
Yeah, hardware cost will be close to half, and a lot less in terms of maintenance and a bunch of other things. Parking.
What is it for a subscription to ScootNetworks?
It's $5.
So $5 a month?
$5 a month, and that gets you that $3 for the first half hour and $3
All right,
per
so
hour
it's not like you're wasting. You're just prepaying $60 a year.
Yeah, exactly. We even do if you sign up for an annual.
All right, so here's an idea for you.
Okay.
This is my idea.
All right.
I'm full of ideas. You got to execute on them. For the bike one, if you are a $50 a month member, you get overnights free. Or you get a day. Actually, that's it. If you're a $50 a month member, you get a day rate.
Okay.
Which is $15 for the day. Whatever it is, $30 for the day. Because you're already in for 50, right? Mm-hmm. So each additional day is X amount or whatever. Or you get like a more discounted rate, but you get the overnights or some other packages like that. So that you'll get people to try and test. But then if they like it, they're like, you know what, I don't want to maintain this bike. I don't want to come out of a pocket for $2,000. I don't want to worry about when it gets stolen, that it's my fault or whatever. You got the insurance. You got the maintenance. I can just take it or leave it. And if I go away for 3 weeks, I don't need to pay for it. It's just gone, right? So you can roll over the credits. But for somebody to have it for $50 a month and have like some dedicated amount of time and extra availability, I think you could crush it.
This is specifically for the e-bike?
Specifically for the e-bike.
Okay, I like it.
Because if you think about it, you could bring the e-bike inside, right?
Yeah, you don't need to park it on the street.
You don't need to park on the street. It's a critical difference between that and a scooter.
Yeah, that's huge.
You can bring the bike inside.
Huh.
Right? I mean, I could bring it into my office. I could bring it into... Right?
What about this? What if there was one for $100 a month or 90 something bucks a month? You get your own e-bike,
right,
and access to all the scoots at some reasonable rate.
So if I need to go faster, I got that.
Yeah.
See, that would be interesting too, because again, millennials and just people who want another extra form of transportation are looking for one to it's gonna appeal to them, right? Like, so even if you have 2 cars right now, getting rid of the car and having one e-bike for $99 a month, can you imagine the cost savings?
Massive.
Like
it's like
$400
it's like a
a
parking
month.
ticket a month. And
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
Which I just got. Because where I live, there's parking permits. I just haven't gotten one yet. So I'm getting a ticket for parking
In your own neighborhood.
in my own neighborhood. So I can't wait for this next part. I can't wait to get the e-bike. When are you gonna? So will you have it ready for March? Do you think? Maybe we should launch this at the launch festival.
That'd be a
Part
cool
of the 2.0.
idea.
That'd be a cool idea. You come back 3 years later and just be like, "Yo, what's up? We're not dead. We're still alive." The craziest idea of 2012 is still alive. That'd be a cool.
Were we the craziest idea at Launch Festival?
I would say I have a pretty good nose for what investors think at this point and like how they react to stuff. And I know when people looked at your stuff, they would be like, oh, like capital intent, like at that point in time.
Sure.
And now that's all changed, right? So I think that it's your moment, actually. I think it's going to be an incredible 2015 for you if you can get that product out and you can start getting that monthly reoccurring revenue and people start looking at you as a SaaS business and the churn rate is low and the utilization is high and the NPS score is high, which it will be, I think. I think these e-bikes are going to be so much less scary to people because everybody's ridden a bike.
That's the part we like about it. We like it as a kind of an easy entree into use of a whole different category.
How will they do on hills here? Those e-bikes are not going to make it up some of these hills in Pack Heights, or what do you don't know?
Some of the super steep ones, you'd need to give it a little extra help yourself.
Juice?
That's what the pedals are for.
Yeah. But so they'll make it up a reasonable hill?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And what's the range on those now?
I think
10 miles?
the one of the ones we're looking at has a range. If you're not even pedaling it on the flats, it'll go like 20 miles or something like that.
Yeah, so that'd probably be 10 miles San Francisco.
Yeah, probably.
But you'd be able to plug it in when you got home. See, that's the other thing.
Or take the battery off because all the batteries are removable with the e-bikes. And just take the battery inside.
They're just on the back, right? They put that little plaque on the back. All right, listen. Everybody who come to San Francisco has to try ScootNetworks. It's my...
so do you, Jason.
I know. I have to get it. Where is it nearest? There's none in Pack Heights, though, right?
Because you guys have the crazy parking up there.
Where would be the closest to Pack Heights? Is there one on Market around here? I'll just take one out.
Yeah, there's a couple within walking distance of here.
Of WeWork? Where's the closest one to WeWork?
The one that's closest now is at 5th and Mission Garage, but we're about to put one in just a couple blocks north of here.
You got to put one right around here because you have Zendesk, Twitter, and us. Well, us, we're 10 people, but you have WeWork is hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Zendesk is hundreds of people, and then Twitter is, I think, maybe thousands of people. I don't know. But those 3 buildings alone, you would get tons of usage. And you know what? The Twitter building has a huge sidewalk. I bet you could get Twitter
Just put them right out front.
to lobby the city to get, because they'll do anything for Twitter. Twitter runs the city here based on the taxes they pay.
Right.
They'll definitely let Twitter have an exception to put 20 of them out there for Twitter people. Think about what they would save going to meetings versus taking Ubers. They would save a lot. I shouldn't be saying this. I'm an Uber investor. But anyway, it would be, and just honestly, an Uber cost $8 or $9 for one of those rides, and it would be $3. It would be half the amount of an Uber.
Makes a difference to some folks.
Depends on if you want to work or not. I think what will happen is certain groups, different people at different times will want different things. So if you have to make a phone call, you take an Uber. If you want to enjoy the city and the view, you do that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody go to ScootNetworks and sign up. If you're in San Francisco and you haven't taken one, shame on you. Go get one. And follow Michael M.B. Keating, Keating. And follow the show at TWI Startups. Thanks again to director Jacob and Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, and Luke, Matt, and Julian for keeping the lights on with all the great sponsorship and partnership sales that they're doing, and my chief of staff Bryce, and Nathan in operations and branding, curating the events. Oh my God, so many people to thank, and we'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.